Hello, welcome. I do not know how anything works, but I'm gonna start my audiobook today of Project Impossible. I have my own version. It's a hardcover. You can get your own on Amazon. I don't have hardcover copies. You can only get a paperback copy to read along with me, or if you just want to put this on in the background, that's fine too. But make sure, if you want to support me in some way, please, um, hit the follow button or the subscribe button or whatever it is. I'm gonna post it. It's gonna be on my Twitch channel. It's gonna be on my YouTube channel. And keep in mind that I'm not a professional. I tend to trip over my words sometimes. I'm not a professional uh, audiobook reader or audiobook narrator. So just keep that in mind. And let's get started. Okay. Project Impossible Volume 1. Henry Carhart. I already read the preface in um, a video on my YouTube channel. If you're watching this on YouTube, that's already up. Okay. Prologue. Tick, 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 tick. Inside a small cottage, by a warm fire, elderly Nadine Moreland rested atop her sofa, daughter nestled against her chest. The young girl, Justine, stuffed bear in hand, curled up close as her mother read her the labors of Heracles. Wall-to-wall bookcases and paintings filled every room of their home, novels most of all. Justine had her mother's shining eyes and enchanted flowing hair. As she drifted to sleep, her mother's soft voice cooed. At long last, the Chimera was slain, and Heracles finally celebrated the end of his labors. And then he lived happily ever after. The end. Nadine brushed graying hair from her kindly wrinkled face, shot through with laugh and worry lines, and the hard-won weight of wisdom and knowledge. But what happened after? Justine begged. It seemed as if every story ended with the happily ever after. Even at all of 6, Justine was smart enough to know it wasn't that simple. As we speak, he is living happily on Mount Olympus. I should show you his consolation sometime. Nadine closed the book and set it aside. Justine looked up at her mother in awe. You know him? Knew him, Nadine said softly. I met many. 3 powerful bangs at the door had Nadine up out of her chair and Justine leaping off the sofa. Witch hunters, Nadine spat. Their presence burned in her skull. Their anger, their greed, their jealousy. They're here for me. Hide. The girl backed into the corner near the fire. You said we'd be protected here. Should have been, thought Nadine. But she'd always had a feeling this day would come. She'd bought time by settling them here in the forever forest, impossible to navigate without the proper tools. Door banging behind her. Nadine hurried to her daughter and bent to one knee. Do you remember the woods behind the cottage? Justine squeezed her bear tighter and nodded. Go, now. But you said never again. I know, but this is important. Take Daddy and run, as fast as you can. The little girl couldn't pry her eyes from the door, the hammering growing louder. Can you play hide and find for me? Stay with your father no matter what you hear. He'll protect you until I find you, and I will find you. Nadine pulled Justine to her chest and gave her a kiss on the head. Now go! Run! Justine ran to wake her father. A few moments of hushed conversation later, Nadine heard the back windows shut and breathed deep, steadying herself. She then shot a glance to the front door, still holding under the continued assault. Nadine strode over and kicked it down with ease. The dark magic she'd summoned shredded into the wooden shrapnel. The hunters outside staggered back. An even dozen, all clad in black armor, each with their own choice of weapon. Maltide's that Black Legion, incompetence, poorly trained. This would be quick. Nadine felt their fear, several men stepping back, others trembling. Scared of a woman, are we? Nadine Moreland! The commander shouted, trying to bring his men to heel. You were under arrest for treason, condemned to hang at dawn. Lower your weapons, Nadine said gently, spreading her arms wide. I'm not what I once was. Tell it to the gallows, witch. The commander drew his sword. Take her! Nadine chuckled, lips split in a feral smile as a flaming arrow screamed through the air. She waved her hand and froze it in its tracks, inches from her eyes. With another flick of her wrist, it hurtled back at its sender, burning through his helm and out again, the wound cauterized as soon as made. Murderer! A swordsman cried, rushing forward, sword raised above his feathered helmet. Nadine grabbed his throat with one hand and lifted him, using his own momentum, to then slam him into the ground. He crumpled like a broken doll. With a glance at his fallen ally, the remaining hunters rushed her. One managed to drive a blade into Nadine's arm as she held the others off. She swatted him away through the air like an errant fly, catching his dropped stiletto to thrust it into another warrior's throat. The others fared little better. Bloodied, staggering as she watched his men die, the commander shouted, Retreat! She's too powerful! He turned to run, but Nadine stretched out long practiced hands, curling them into fists. The commander rose into the air, gasping for breath and dropping his sword to claw at his throat. He gurgled for a brief, agonizing moment, then his limbs dropped bonelessly, and he hung aloft like a marionette. Nadine released him as the surviving hunters fled. She raised a hand to her forehead and breathed slowly, her mind afire. Nadine nearly crumpled under the pain. She shook her head to clear it and looked on the trail of corpses. She stumbled, furious at the loss of control. Nadine's dark side had a dangerously tight grip around her heart. The rage that manifested during these outbursts overtook her. She wasn't the psychopath everyone took her for. At least, she didn't want to be. As soon as the witch hunters were gone, she turned her attention to finding her daughter and partner. She had warned her daughter against playing in those woods because, unlike Justine and her stepfather, Nadine knew about an outpost there, one owned by the most cutthroat pirate crew in medieval 70 seas. She had to hurry. Nadine ran, following two pairs of footprints set into the muddy ground. She called out her daughter's name until the trail came to a sudden end at the top of a hill. Her calls grew desperate as Justine didn't respond. Mud splashed underfoot as Nadine ran on. She leapt over rocks and ducked under fallen trees, her daughter's silence deafening until she tripped and fell on her face. She spat out mud as something whispered Nadine in her head. What? Nadine grumbled at the voice intruding on her despair. By the way, if you're in the chat, please say hi. I'm afraid Justine and her stepfather have been kidnapped by pirates, my dear, in a lair you led them to. Nadine's face hardened. Can I save them? The voice considered the possibility. No. Nadine could sense the speaker's looming presence behind her. It sent a cold shiver down her spine, an icy breath that trailed along her skin. You feel it too, don't you? The presence whispered. Can you hear the gates of hell chanting your name? Nadine harumphed, unwilling to answer. The sands of time are slipping away. Your mental coil teeters on the edge of oblivion. But your magic is as powerful as it has ever been. You need not depart this realm without bequeathing your knowledge to another. Why would I trust a nameless voice? My name is irrelevant, especially now in the last 2 minutes of your life. Nadine pounded her fist into the dirt. Gazing at the ground, she closed her eyes. Lebrine, Appendo! She incanted, and a dense book materialized before her. My life ends here, Nadine intoned, but my power, the power of neutrality, shall persist. She took a deep, shaky breath, ribbons of black and white energy streaming outward from her chest to dance like flags in the wind. From this moment, I make my magic obtainable by another. The streams of magic twisted and spun, weaving together under Nadine's focus. She waved her hands over the blank book, guiding the energy toward the waiting pages. The colors merged, forming a subtle shade of gray before colliding with the paper. Centil, Ungriff, Jeplor, Trinop, Nadine chanted. With each incantation, a burst of magical light flashed on the book. Lowering her hands, she gazed upon her work, where ancient Medievish now covered its pages. Her eyes gleamed, brimming with tears at the knowledge of what she had been, what she was passing on. These are the words of power that are bound to mine, the witch declared. I have grown old and frail, and my powers, once a blessing, become a heavy burden to the receiver. May it be a lighter gift than the one I bore. Bursts of wind erupted for the maelstrom, sending the pages of Nadine's book fluttering in all directions. I command thee, neutral magic. Lightning crackled in the vast distance of the forever forest, and the frantic flapping of the pages came to an abrupt halt. A new host must be found, one who understands the power and weight of responsibility, someone both pure of heart and rotten to the core. When found, they should be compelled to speak the words bound to my power, and once these bound words are spoken, the neutral magic shall be theirs. The bound words appeared on the page before her, written in some cryptic language Nadine had never seen. Energy spent, Nadine could no longer resist the weight settling on her. Her body yielded, emptied, as she whispered, I'm sorry, Justine. "11 years later. September 17th, 2011. Julin City, California, Earth. Storm clouds massed across the Bay Area, their dark underbellies roiling with electric might. Lightning flashed in the distance, followed close by thunder. Dime-sized raindrops pelted the streets, petrichor mingling with the stench of burnt tire and gasoline. Wailing sirens warred with the storm, their mournful cries as harrowing as the moment 11-year-old Henry Trueheart yearned to escape. Most things he could escape, but not this. Rushing through the crowded hospital corridors, tears blurred his vision. He shouldered past everyone in his way, heart too heavy to care. Henry stumbled out of the building's exit, desperate to escape its suffocating walls. As he dashed along the sidewalk, images of his mother, frail and fading, haunted every corner of the 11-year-old boy's mind. She'd slipped away only moments ago, and in that agonizing moment, Henry had questioned if her death was a punishment, some verdict handed down from the universe itself. Did he deserve love? Did he even deserve love? Was he condemned to suffer the torment of this loss as payback for his mistakes? She's really gone, Henry whispered, still reeling from the shock. In her final moments, he had clung to her trembling hand, assuring her that everything would be fine. Henry ran until his lungs ached, and then pushed himself beyond the limits of exhaustion. He fought the urge to vomit. The loss of his grandparents in his early years had been painful, but he'd been too young to comprehend the permanence of death. In their childhood, Henry and his brother, Robin, had always been guided by their mother's caring hand. She ensured they didn't stray in public places, helped with their homework, took them to the park, and mediated their squabbles, both physical and verbal. Their father existed in the periphery, preoccupied with his work. As the True Heart brothers grew older, new challenges spilled into their lives. Robin fell into the clutches of a wayward crowd, coming home in the dead of night drunk or high, sometimes both. Yet Henry still loved him, and their mother loved them both, despite their flaws. Henry wasn't particularly tall for his age. He had been the target of cruel teasing and harassment at school. His height, his satirical choices, general style, they all drew attention. Sixth grade had become a nightmare when a group of popular girls began treating him like a demon. When he appeared, they'd scream and run away as if their very lives depended on it. The same girls often hurled insults and spread malicious rumors about him. Henry's solace lay in his best friends, Zach and Riley. They were his anchors. Each night as he lay in darkness trying to escape the day's harsh echoes, Henry clung to 4 words, repeating them softly until they soothed his troubled mind. I'm not a monster. I'm not a monster. I'm not a monster. He repeated them now, a mantra against the guilt of his mother's death, until his slippery shoelaces came untied and threw him into a puddle. Dirty water drenched his peach-fuzzed face. He spat it out and cried harder. In frustration, Henry tore open the scabs on his wrists, self-inflicted wounds he couldn't quite comprehend, but found strangely comforting. Each wound served as a reminder that he bled just like everyone else, just like his mother. The final stages of her illness defied all comprehension. Regardless of its grotesque manifestations, she had remained his mother. Henry couldn't care less about rotting skin. She would forever be the warm, loving presence in his life who'd been there with open arms whenever his depression reared. Her unwavering love was always a beacon of support during his most troubling times. Now it was gone. Sorry, Henry told the sky, feeling some higher power had its eyes on him. Is this what you want? The boy screamed. Does this make you happy? It's the end of the prologue. Hold on. How do I see that? I got. I guess I could open it. Oh no, it's right here in the corner. Never mind. I don't have to open a browser. It's right here. 19 minutes. Okay. That's. I mean, that's already going to be a lot of editing for me, but I'm probably gonna cut it. I'm gonna do episodes on my YouTube channel. So if I don't know if I even have any viewers right now. I don't think I do. It says I have one viewers, so I don't know. Oh, Vale replays. Hello. Do I know you in real life, or are you like? Did you just happen to find me? Okay. Well, I mean, honestly, I'm having a lot of fun, and I I I've been struggling a lot with the idea of even uh doing this audiobook because like I just keep thinking like what if there's a mistake? What if it's not as good as I thought it was? But then I remember that I read this book like more than I'd say more than 15, maybe 20 times, and if I including like five read throughs leading up to publication. So if I didn't find a mistake, it's probably something so small that's that like it could be like I don't know, it could be explained in universe or something like there are like slight plot holes in everything. Like that's just something that that's just a part of literature. So I've just decided to do this. So if you've enjoyed so far, please leave a like. Please follow. I'm gonna be doing this. I probably usually won't do multiple chapters in one live stream or one video. But for right now, for this VOD, I think I'm gonna do what I just did, which is the prologue, and then I think I'm gonna do chapter one too. Um, I'm also gonna do chapter one, and then I'm gonna stop there because I am having a lot of fun right now, and I think it would just be better if I kept it to just the two chapters. Okay, chapter one. Friday, October 14th, 2018. Fremont High School, Sunnyvale. As the years passed, Henry's trauma remained a fixture of his life, as did the scars on his wrists. Year after year, he shouldered the blame for his mother's passing. Robin constantly offered reassurance, telling him it was the disease that killed her. It was the disease that killed her. But such words never eased the guilt that Henry carried around. As the boy became a young man, he remained close to Zack and Riley. He only left their side when necessary. They did everything together. In seventh grade, they promised to always be there for each other. In fact, Henry often compared friendship to marriage, telling those closest to him that he'd be with them until death. Henry held his promises in high regard, a lesson learned from his parents' divorce when he was 8. The shattered vows and ensuing pain had left an indelible mark on his young heart, one he refused to inflict on others. At school, Henry often found himself seated alone or with students he didn't know well. Zack and Riley shared only a few courses with him. He was a quiet student, never causing disruptions or engaging in distracting chatter like some of his peers. Most of the time, Henry was lost in his music, headphones firmly on, while diligently taking notes. Henry spent the last half hour of his final class scrolling through real world news. He skimmed a score of articles on rapidly developing technology and the dangers of artificial intelligence, something that both amazed and worried him. As the students around him began packing their bags, Henry's eyes darted to the clock on the classroom wall. Oh, he muttered, realizing that less than a minute remained. He quickly shut his laptop and slid it into his backpack just as the bell rang from the loudspeakers. Henry's classmates rushed for the exit, desperate to start their weekend while the young man took his time gathering the rest of his things. His peers always seemed in such a hurry for the next step. He had no reason to shove or push his way through the crowd. Such behavior seemed outrageous to him. "Bye, Mr. Barrett," Henry called, taking up his backpack, waving as he left. Mr. Barrett nodded and returned from behind his desk, afternoon sunlight streaming through the window to cast a warm glow on his bald, dark-skinned head. "Have a great weekend." "You too." Henry stepped out into the noisy hallway, pausing just outside the door out of habit. A crowd of popular girls, mostly glamorous cheerleaders with faces heavily made up, passed as he waited. Their voices gradually ebbed away, leaving Henry to navigate the familiar clutter of lockers and bulletin boards. The scent of industrial floor cleaner and too many perfumes and colognes gave way to cool air as he stepped through the front doors. Fremont High sat across from a variety of businesses that made up a strip mall. The school was a quiet observer of Sunnyvale's daily rhythm. Henry wove down the steps and through a throng of students, navigating clusters of freshmen and juniors, then veered at the end of the cobblestone path toward welcoming shade from a massive tree on the school grounds. Under its branches stood Zack, leaning against the tree's trunk. Engrossed in a Japanese anime, Zack was streaming it on his phone off a dubious website cluttered with ads. He wore a large hoodie, with black fabric acting as a backdrop for the bold Star Wars emblazoned in the iconic black and yellow font. Henry tapped his friend on the shoulder. Looking up from his phone, Zack paused the show to remove his earbuds and smiled. They greeted each other with a high five. "Sup, Henry?" Zack's greeting carried the barest hint of a southern accent. "Hey, can you swing by my place later to help me with that essay? I can pay you just like last time." Henry let out a short laugh. I've been helping you with your homework since second grade. I know you're capable of doing it on your own." Zack shrugged. "Can't focus for that long. But your IEP gives you accommodations for that, I guess." "Well, I'm sorry you have so much trouble with..." Henry's sentence trailed off as he caught sight of a familiar face sitting on a bench before the school. His heart raced as he spent several moments watching her read the book in her hands. He tried to shift his attention back to Zack, but couldn't keep his eyes off the young woman. Zack grinned wide as he followed Henry's gaze. "Oh. What?" Henry cleared his throat. "You're staring at her again," Zack said. Henry looked embarrassed, while his best friend faked a cough. Oh, man, I might have a virus." Henry crossed his arms. "Oh, yeah? Yeah, it's called You Should Go Ask Her Out Before Someone Else Does. I'm not gonna..." "Come on, man. You're already flirty with her." "I am not." "Oh, Riley, I love your hair today. Is that a new perfume, Riley? You make me so happy, Riley." Henry rolled his eyes. "I get it." Zack pointed at the bench where Henry's crush sat. "Okay, she's right there, so go talk to her, man." Zack gave Henry a gentle push. "She's your best friend. You talk to her all the time." "Okay, first off, you're my best friend. And you shouldn't pick favorites. Second, I'm not afraid. I'm just contemplating it." "Maybe and go contemplate on that bench." Zack nudged him on the arm. "Her dad would never approve of me, and I don't deserve her." "Uh-huh. I wouldn't even know what to say. Just talk to her like you do about everything else. You could always rant to her about your redneck uncles." "You mean your redneck uncles?" Henry laughed. "Yeah, they're certainly special. How are they, by the way? Just the other day, Uncle Billy swallowed a snake. Don't know how to put a fishing line down his throat to get it out. What? Yeah, that stuff's normal in the South. Now stop stalling. Fine. Happy? Yes. Satisfied, Zach returned to his phone as Henry strode to the old graffitied bench where Riley sat. She looked up as he approached, green eyes like the first flush of spring settling on Henry, setting his cheeks heating. Standing a polite distance away, Henry shuffled his feet. The seat taken? No, have a seat. Riley patted the cool stone beside her. Company would be nice. Henry eased himself down beside her. A wide smile found its way onto his lips as her presence washed away the stress of his day. How have you been? Riley asked, sliding the book into her blue backpack. Not terrible, Henry answered. I was... Riley's light, freckled face tightened with confusion as she studied his distant expression. Was he lost in thought or just nervous to share something? You were... she prompted, waving a hand before his face to check for signs of life. Henry blinked a few times as if emerging from a distant thought. His words were abruptly eclipsed by the thunderous roar of an approaching supercar. The convertible, a stunning Ferrari, gleamed in a vibrant shade of purple. Bold yellow stripes adorned its hood. It screamed toward them like a streak of lightning before making a sharp head-turning left into the pickup area. Henry's expression shifted abruptly from joy to utter embarrassment. He could almost feel the ground vibrating in response to the pounding riffs of a metalcore song blaring from the car's speakers. The extravagant vehicle drew a crowd of whispering onlookers. Behind the wheel sat Robin Trueheart, banging his head to the song, relaxed by its aggressive, screamed lyrics. Hey, little bro! Robin shouted over the music with a mischievous grin. Ready to roll? Robin had cranked up the car's speakers to their ear-splitting maximum, a clear attempt to embarrass his brother. He frequently boasted ownership of the supercar, even though it belonged to their father. Blushing, Henry shot off the bench, face down to avoid smartphone cameras snapping pictures as he strode to the car. He rolled up the window the moment he was inside. Still on the bench, Riley looked crestfallen. Bye, I guess. Henry quickly buckled his seatbelt as the incomprehensible lyrics continued. He tried to shout over the screechy music. Can you turn that down? Sorry, bro, can't hear you, Robin shouted with a shrug, tapping the steering wheel as if it were a drum kit. Henry grunted as he leaned in to snap the volume dial down and flip Robin off. I don't understand how you haven't lost your hearing. Robin rolled his eyes as they pulled out of the lot. I saw you talking to Riley. Were you asking her out? You know you look ridiculous, right? Robin's frequently worn dark leather jacket and sunglasses always put Henry on edge, his brother always trying so hard to look cool. Go ahead, ignore the question, Robin shook his head. He'd been trying to set Henry up with Riley for a year. He wanted Henry's first meaningful relationship to be a lasting one, and Riley seemed like the perfect fit. I wasn't asking her out, Henry said. I get nervous around her. Aw, Robin mocked, stopping at a red light. That's adorable, but you've been friends since middle school, right? Mm-hmm. You're probably the only one in your grade who's still a lip virgin. Good Lord, Robin, please don't start calling me that. Are you telling me you have kissed a girl? No, I haven't, but that's not the point. It's just not nice. Fine. The supercar flew down the road, engine roaring as the light turned green. Eyes never leaving the road, Robin reached into his pocket to retrieve a vape pen. He took a heavy drag before blowing out a cloud of vapor quickly eaten by the wind. You want a hit? No. Still, forever, no. It's cherry. Not even if it tasted like vanilla ice cream. Just get me home. I'm not taking your stupid drug whistle. Smart choice. You know I'd never actually give it to you, right? I'm just testing you again. Henry rolled his eyes. Why do you even bother testing me? Just want to make sure you're not making the same mistakes I did. But hey, how was school? Okay, I guess, but I almost got into a fight. Glancing at his brother, Robin took one hand off the wheel to slide down his glasses. What? I saw a freshman getting bullied. New transfer from Mexico. He doesn't speak a lot of English. A sophomore, a real asshole, was being flat out racist to him. I felt so bad. What did you do to the bully? I stepped in. I know you've told me not to, and I know people need to solve their own problems, but I felt so angry. I wanted to. I wanted to just. His nose twitched. There was a moment where I didn't feel like myself. Probably sound like I've lost my mind. What did you tell him? To stop being an asshole because. Henry glanced down at the faded scars on his wrists. You know why? And he told me to mind my goddamn business. Robin laughed. Did you? Nope. So he pulled out a switchblade. Did he hurt you? No. And he leaned back and stretched out his legs with a cocky smirk. He didn't see the principal running our way. Okay, first wipe the grin off your face, said Robin, scowling. You got lucky. This time. Why can't you just listen to what I told you about sticking up for people? Because you're wrong? Robin threw up one hand. Stepping in is great, I know. But you can't keep pretending you're some superhero who can save everyone. That's not how the world works. You're not Superman. You never will be. Henry clenched his fist, not looking at his brother. Outside the window, urban architecture sped by as the Ferrari barreled down down the highway. The Trueheart brothers fell into a contemplative silence, the lull welcome as they cooled off. Their silence ended as Robin eased off the accelerator, bringing the supercar to a halt at a red light. You know, Robin started. Yeah? For all I've got left. Mom's long gone. Dad doesn't want anything to do with us. You and me, we still have each other. If you keep sticking up for people, sometime you won't be so lucky. Next time it'll be a knife, or a gun, or someone you can't outrun, despite what you may think you are not invincible. I don't... Just listen, Robin cut in. Bad things happen, and you can't always go back and make amends for your wrongs. Sometimes you just have to move on. I can't change my past, but I can help you. I just want to be the role model that isn't. I know I'm an annoying prick, but I love you. I want you safe. I love you too, Henry said, high-fiving his brother. Parents are overrated anyway. Gracious Avenue was a stretch of residential buildings that lived up to its name. Each house on the narrow one-way street seemed grander than its neighbor. Henry stared at the vibrant high-end cars parked in vast driveways, at the striking gates guarding each residence like medieval portcullises. Every home boasted multiple trees in their yard, the shade they cast almost enough to shield the street from the scorching California sun. No need for them today, though, under a veil of gray-white clouds. Robin pulled into the driveway of the mansion where he and Henry had grown up. 2473 Gracious Avenue, the largest residence on the street, if not the entire neighborhood. Positioned at the end of the cul-de-sac, it emanated an aura of opulence. Robin shut off the engine and they headed up the front steps. The brothers had grown up extremely wealthy. Their father, a figure shrouded in mystery, had been equally evasive about the source of his money. Before he'd all but entirely disappeared, he'd claimed to work at prominent tech giants like Google and Microsoft out of their Silicon Valley offices, which was plausible. But Henry always had doubts. One Ferrari would have cost his father several years' salary, and they owned far more than just one expensive car. He assumed there was something shady bankrolling the family. Money laundering, scamming, or even professional bank robbery. Probably something less extreme. But he never dared to ask. "Dad," Henry called as he stepped inside. "Are you home?" "He's never home." Robin wasn't wrong. Beyond the faded images and ancient family photographs, the Trueheart brothers were left with nothing but a featureless form when it came to their father's face. Henry shrugged as Robin went down the stairs toward his bedroom. Henry started up the stairs toward his, but stopped on the fourth step. "I like to think he still cares about us. That someone still does. Dad may be absent, but if he didn't care, I don't think he would send me checks every month. He's still technically paying our bills, buying us food. It's different from having a father. It hasn't been the same since Mom died." Inside the mansion, the atmosphere was a mixture of grandeur and emptiness. Elegant furniture and modern technology filled spacious rooms, as empty as they were well appointed, everything sterile. At the top of the stairs, Henry veered right and proceeded down the corridor. He closed and secured the door of his bedroom at the end of the hall. Then he threw his backpack onto the bed in the room's corner and dropped into his swivel chair, sitting before a large computer desk. A meticulously crafted PC stood on the desk's upper shelf, its network of wires and plugs descending to an extension cord on the floor. Henry gazed up at the computer, a product of years of assembly cobbled from salvaged components that gradually evolved into a gaming rig. Beside the computer, a bin cradled a gathering of dusty vintage action figures. The miniature replicas depicted characters from Marvel and Star Wars and other iconic franchises. While Henry hadn't played with them in years, they still held nostalgic charm that beckoned him from time to time. Before Henry could muster the strength to activate his computer, a suffocating fatigue settled over him. Henry coughed, sitting bolt upright, suddenly wide awake. His arms ached, the sense of something slithering through his bloodstream setting him scratching. His scars, constant reminders of the darkest time in his life, shattered with a haunting crack as he looked at them in terror. Trails of blood gushed from each horizontal slit, staining his clothes. He screamed for help, but no sound escaped his mouth. Panicking, Henry stood and pressed his hand against his chest. He turned to get help, but tripped on clothing strewn on his floor and went down hard, slamming his head on the hard wood. And there was a voice, small and distant. It chanted two words repeatedly. "Find me, find me, find me, find me, find me." Blinking through a sudden fog, the throbbing pain in Henry's wrists receded. He raised his arms, extending them in front of his face as a sense of relief washed over him. Despite what had felt so real, his scars hadn't opened like gateways to hell. As Henry sprang up from the bedroom floor, tears welled in his eyes. He grabbed a jacket from his closet and hastily drew its zipper up over his shirt as he started to run. He hurried down the stairs, out the front door, and dashed into the pouring rain. Henry sprinted down Gracious Avenue with every ounce of energy he could muster. At the at the road's end, he turned left and nearly slipped on the soaked sidewalk. He couldn't suppress a scream as memories of the night his mother passed flashed through his mind. Henry was still plagued by the unjust cause of her suffering and its origins, and why fate hadn't claimed him that night instead. Splashed into an inch deep puddle as he turned a corner, Henry skidded to a halt and spun around, taking in the narrow passage he'd entered. A dumpster at the alley's entrance oozed a noxious stench of rotting food. Halfway down the alley, Henry lost his footing and descended to his knees, now soaked in murky water. "I miss you so much," Henry whispered under his breath. He stayed there as rain drenched him. Since her passing, Henry had struggled to embody the goodness she'd always wanted in him. Henry opened his eyes and sighed, then squinted as he caught sight of a mahogany brown book set before him. Golden markings adorned the book's dirty cover. The longer he stared at it, the more a soothing warmth enveloped him. Curiosity piqued. He reached down to grasp the book. The spine was hot to the touch, just enough to chase away the cold of the downpour. A title was emblazoned on the cover, rendered in an unfamiliar language, its letters almost like a child's scribbles. Henry opened the book to its first page, only to find it empty. Huh. He flipped through, each page as empty as the first, until at last he came to a single, solitary marked page. Unlike the text on the cover, the words on this page were written in clear, easy-to-read Latin characters. Scintille, Ungriff, Jeplor, Trenop? Henry scoffed at the gibberish. Then the words on the paper glowed a vibrant green, begging to be read again. Scintille, Ungriff, Jeplor, Trenop, Henry said, and then again, louder, until he was shouting them. With each repetition, a spherical object gradually emerged from the pages, a blended black and white in hue, until it finally broke free. The mystical sphere circled Henry, examining every side of his slender form. Composed of solid light with swirling green and red patterns within, Henry cried out as it continued to circuit him. He watched in amazement as the orb slowed to a stop above the book. Slowed to a stop right above the book. "Perfect balance," said a feminine voice from inside the light. Startled, Henry rose and stepped back till he was up against the dumpster. He made to turn, but the orb shot at him like a bullet, liquefying into thick, boiling goo as Henry's skin absorbed it. For a brief moment, his veins and eyes radiated white. Power surged through his limbs, setting him writhing. "My neutral magic has chosen you, Henry Trueheart," the voice boomed. Henry looked around frantically, retreating further from the book out of fear. "My ancient powers are yours." A shockwave blasted outward from the book and propelled Henry through the air. He screamed as he flew across the alley to crash against the brick wall. Vision tunneling, Henry collapsed to his knees and fell on his face. Some time later, Henry jolted awake, soaked to the bone, vision blurred. He rubbed at his eyes, noticing the shredded sleeves of his hoodie purchased just a week prior. He leaned on the dumpster for support as he pushed himself to his feet. What had been Henry's skinny teenage body had given way to a large, muscular form with pronounced veins and strong features. Perplexed, The young man sat up and tried to make sense of the abrupt change, only to immediately lose his balance. He steadied himself against the dumpster and jerked back his hand as the metal lid crumpled under his fingers. Henry stared at his dirty palm. That's not possible. Straightening, Henry lightly tapped his knuckles against the dumpster, only to have the giant canister rock backward and crack the brick wall behind it. Jaw dropping, Henry flexed his hands, then bent down and held the bin's underside. Without a hint of strain, he lifted the full dumpster with ease and dropped it as soon as he realized how much power he possessed. No, this has to be a dream. It's you? A quiet voice asked for the alley's entrance. He looked to the questioner, veiled in darkness. A feminine figure, standing at the head of the alley, an obscuring hood tilted down to hide her face. Henry raised a hand to wave shyly. Who are you? The woman giggled, and then ran the other way. Hey! He scrambled to his feet, grabbing the mysterious book before giving chase. Hey, wait! The woman mirrored Henry's movements, but stayed easily out of reach. Whenever Henry took a step forward, she took two, and when he started to run, she moved twice as fast. Henry ventured off the sidewalk and followed the woman across a busy street, darting between honking cars. In his haste, he clumsily tumbled up and over the hood of an SUV and rolled its length to land on his back on the asphalt. He shot back up, uninjured, and glanced back at the irate driver, an elderly woman shouting, "Get on the road, dickhead!" I don't know. That was... Oh, yeah, who's this? Virus Girl? Yeah, hi. I'm reading my book, Project Impossible. It's available on Amazon. But... Oh, sorry, it's a booklet. Yeah. So, feel free to stay. Please, give a follow if how often I stream. This is my first stream in a very long time. I do plan on doing this very often, starting soon. Um, I'm actually having a lot of fun, so I'm gonna start doing that. Um, by the way, you're not affiliated. I'm not sure what that means. Is that a Twitch? Is that something Twitch related? I'm not sure. I'm gonna keep reading. Hello? Oh no. Henry ignored her and jogged onto the sidewalk, looking for the hooded woman. Hello? Henry called as he entered a pizza restaurant's parking lot. He jogged halfway through its span before he halted, turning slowly to scan his surroundings. To promote channels. I'm not really worried about that right now. It doesn't really seem like doesn't really seem genuine to me. It seems like a scam. I don't know. Turning slowly to scan his surroundings. Where are you? It is you. Henry yelped as a cold, wet hand gripped his shoulder. He turned to face a young figure with long, soaked brown hair. Her familiar smile rested between two freckled cheeks. Riley? Why did it pick you? I don't... Henry gulped. Why you? How did you find me? I mean, it's good to see you. I miss you. He pulled her in to give her a big hug, but she shoved him back, slamming him forcefully into the side of a minivan. Why am I scared? because you're asking me to you're offering this deal that sounds too good to be true, and you're asking me to add you on Discord, which is a separate platform, and it's literally like there are all kinds of bots and scammers on Twitch. I'm not gonna fall for this. So go somewhere else or like get a life, please. You don't get to ask questions. Not until you answer mine. I don't know what you mean. The book, the magic, the powers. Why you? All Henry could do was shrug. Well, now I have even more questions. I thought they'd go to someone special, someone with abilities, not some nobody. A nobody? He tried to laugh it off awkwardly. This wasn't like her. Riley was calm and collected, not cruel. She'd never call him that even as a joke. Riley scoffed. Just an Earth human. No extraordinary gifts or powers. Just some random kid. And we shoved Riley away, shouting, "Don't call me that!" He took an intimidating step toward her, fists clenched, and she stepped back in tandem with him. You're not Riley Hill. So who are you? What are you? A grin grew on her face. I'm the one who let that book come to you, Henry. But you're not worthy. Not of the power or the fame it'll bring you. Henry roared. Henry roared and stretched out his arm to grab her by the throat. But she vanished, her short, high-pitched giggles ringing in his ears. He thumped a fist into the car before him, crumpling its door and setting off the alarm. He shut his eyes and steadied his breathing. His world spun with unanswered questions. Opening his eyes, he felt nothing under his shoes. His body had gone weightless, no longer affected by the laws of physics. He felt like he was falling. But 1 second passed, then 2, then several more, and he remained hovering a few inches off the ground, still perfectly upright. Henry put his hands at his sides and looked straight ahead at the dumpsters behind the restaurant. On instinct, he propelled himself forward and marveled as the stationary cars cruised beneath his swinging feet. There was a soft thud as he hit the building, but instead of falling, he remained airborne. Henry adjusted his stance. Flattening his shoes against the wall to stand at a 90-degree angle. Henry gazed up at the sky, then watched as rain cascaded from showerhead clouds. A confident grin crossed his face as he crouched against the wall. Then with a mighty leap, he catapulted into the sky like a rocket taking flight. His joyous scream was nearly drowned out by the roaring winds that assailed him. He felt his organs drop into his stomach as he fought the wind pushing against him. Henry leveled out as he reached cloud cover, halting his ascension. Tears of joy flowed down his cheeks, and his hands and lips quivered with exhilaration. Beads of sweat formed on his hands and feet as he gazed at the concrete jungle far below, which extended far out into the distance. Henry had nearly forgotten how much he loved Julian. He swung vertical to better regard it, letting his gaze wander for the mesmerizing skyline with its tall office towers, all the way down to tiny glistening specks of car headlights on its intersecting streets and highways. In that moment, an emptiness filled him, a visceral need for someone to appreciate the breathtaking view with. Until 2008, Julian had existed as two separate cities, Campbell and San Jose. In March of that year, their mayors and city councils made the monumental decision to merge the two into a singular, sprawling metropolis. Henry had a few minor problems with Julian, but it was home. He had always thought something like superhuman flight would be hard to control, especially for a beginner. Actually doing it proved otherwise. It was as simple as thinking about where he wanted to go and letting his body do the rest. Henry soared through the skies for easily half an hour, just reveling in the wealth of new sensations and the freedom of the skies. He cheered and screamed as he gracefully navigated between buildings and towers. The realization that he no longer needed a plane ticket to reach far-off destinations like Paris, Egypt, India, or New York City was almost surreal. Risking his life, Henry tested the limits of his abilities and flew down near ground level. He whizzed past vehicles and trains filled with shocked passengers, all struggling to take photos fast enough to catch him. When he finally decided to come down, Henry went straight to Zach's house. If anyone knew how to deal with superpowers, it'd be Zach, with his extensive knowledge of every popular and obscure superhero. Henry landed moments before urgently pounding on Zach's front door. While waiting for his best friend to answer, he paced the front porch. The mail slot slid up, and Zach's eyes peered through. Henry? Henry's eyes narrowed. Do you usually answer the door through the mail slot? No, of course not, Zach said wearily. This is serious, man. I need help. Yeah, sure, Zach replied. Henry slipped inside as soon as the door was open. Hey, what's the hurry? Zach followed him into the kitchen and walked to a snack cabinet as Henry sat down, grabbing himself a bag of cheese-flavored chips. Henry threw himself into a seat at the kitchen counter, dropping the book down in front of him. Then he started banging his head onto the book's cover. Are you okay? No, it's this stupid book. Hey, books have feelings too. Zach frowned as he sat next to Henry, opening the chip bag, then pulled the book over and started flipping through. Henry cringed as Zach touched each page, leaving behind orange smudges. It's not him, a voice in Henry's head hissed. Thief. Henry slammed his open palm on the back of Zach's hand. Zach tried to squirm away, but Henry's hand held it in place. Hands off, Henry demanded, voice cold. He loosened his grip as Zach fearfully withdrew his hand. Sorry, said Zach, confused. I thought you wanted my help. I do. Okay. So, what powers do you have, man? Zach smirked. How do you... Come on, you barge in looking like a bodybuilder, and you're a hell of a lot stronger than you used to be, he said, shaking his head. I don't exactly know what's going on, but I think you came to the right person for help. You're awfully calm about this. Zach just smiled. So, were you bitten by a spider? Given a magic ring? Or were you... None of that. You watch too many movies. I do not. Look, maybe it's better if I just show you, Henry said, grabbing him by the arm. With Zach in tow, he walked to the back door of the kitchen, opened it, and stepped out onto the backyard deck. Henry approached a wooden table and took a deep breath, climbing up the table's side before standing up. Don't freak out, all right? I ain't gonna get scared. Zach took his phone out and held it at his hip, attempting to hide the fact that he was recording. Henry took a deep breath, and with a burst of energy, dashed across the table and leaped off the edge. He immediately dropped onto the grill and tumbled off, hitting the deck's stomach first. Zach cackled as he put his phone away. That's going straight to YouTube. No, delete that, Henry shouted, hands on his stomach. I I never said I know how to use my powers. Okay, fine. I just want to hear how it happened. Let's start at the beginning. Henry sat up and sighed. Okay. Earlier in my room, I started seeing things. I panicked and ran away, but I found that book in an alleyway. I flipped through it until I found the only page with writing, and I read it aloud, and you were suddenly buff? Yeah, I guess. How'd you get here? Zach asked, helping Henry to his feet. Please tell me it was something cool like super speed or teleportation. I flew. I know I can fly. I was just doing it not 10 minutes ago. I just maybe I don't know how to do it on command. Oh, so you're a noob. Oh no, I don't think Henry stopped himself and sighed and lowered his head. Yeah, I'm a noob. Cool. Again, you're very calm about this. Why are you acting like this is an everyday occurrence? Well, I'm 99% sure my uncles are invincible or something. Zack started walking around Henry, looking him over as he circled like a shark in water. Sorry, what? Yep, they can't die. At least they haven't yet. Are you serious? Absolutely, they're almost 130 and they don't look a day over 50. That's strange, but not unheard of. Also, do you remember seeing all those headlines about the Cloudfree experiments? The ones that said Stephen Cloudfree would be charged for experimenting on super people. That was just a guess, though, right? I mean, why would a genius scientist like Stephen waste time on something that's hypothetical? Because it ain't a theory. I'm sorry, but are you telling me you don't believe other superpowered folks exist? I'm skeptical. Henry sighed and paused to think. When were Billy and Darnell even born, anyway? July 4th, 1889. Really? Yep. They fought in World War One and Two, shot many times, but survived miraculously. Oh, also, their bones are so dense that it grants them strength that can only be described as superhuman. I've seen Darnell lift a tractor. How have you never told me any of this? Henry wondered. Well, why doesn't Clark Kent tell Lois Lane he's Superman? Why does Peter Parker not tell Aunt May? Henry let out a deep exhale. Yeah, I guess you have a point. Dude, do you realize what this means? Zach asked. You're 10 times as cool as you were before. Imagine all the girls you'll get now. Henry sighed. I don't want girls. I want Riley. You know that. As Zach began to speak again, time itself seemed to fall back to a slower, altered pace around Henry. He felt his limbs freeze, and the once vivid world was obscured by a monochromatic blanket, and Henry's vision, a paragraph of white text materialized, its letters appearing one at a time as if typed out on a mental computer. Too bewildered to keep listening to Zach, Henry read along silently. This is your supervision mode. While this ability does not let you see through surfaces, it does include every property of the one from before's enhanced vision. With this power, you will be able to see through fog with ease. The darkness of Medivh's nights will appear to you as the light of day. The heated signatures which humans give off will be shown to you when requested. Supervision is your personal microscope, the ultimate window, now the only barrier between you and anything you want to see. Time moved forward at a steady pace as Henry blinked. The text in his vision disappeared, replaced by a rectangular box displaying a set of stats about his best friend. Zach, 8 in short. Health, 100%. Status, calm, 63 BPM. Abilities, None. Utterly disoriented, Henry stumbled forward, but his head didn't make contact with the deck. Inches from a floor that would have broken his nose on impact, the young man tensed his muscles and began to hover. Holy shit, you're flying! Zack gasped as he dashed to Henry's side. You weren't kidding! Henry gulped. Yeah, told you. You spaced out for a moment there. What happened? Saw some kind of hint? Henry squinted as he searched for the right words. Like a tutorial. Zack tilted his head. Like a game tutorial? Yeah, exactly. Like at the beginning of a video game where when messages keep popping up telling you how to do things even though you've already figured out how to do them. The whole press X to attack or A to jump thing. Exactly. Zack gave an understanding look. Huh. What did it say? It was like telling me how to use one of my powers. One shake of his head was enough to disable supervision. All right. Zack nodded approvingly. We'll figure this out, but right now you need a suit. I can draw you up a concept. A suit? Like an Iron Man suit? No. Zack tilted his head. Well, maybe. I have ideas. Come on. He stood up quickly and ran toward the back door. As Henry slowly rose, he yelled back, What are you waiting for? Let's go! At the end of an unlit hall, Zack stepped into his foggy bedroom and took a deep breath. The walls were decorated with posters featuring various anime shows, superhero films, and video games. Old drawings and crumpled essays were piled in the trash can beside Zack's desk. Henry stepped into a thin cloud of smoke as he entered Zack's bedroom. An earthy, skunk-like odor tickled his nose. Have you been... Henry coughed. Smoking again? Ah, damn it, sorry. Zack rushed over to open his bedroom window. He grabbed a stack of paper to fan it out. Henry settled into a chair beside Zack's computer desk. I'm always available to talk, you know. Zack frowned. I know. It's been very on and off these days. What do you mean? Well, there are days that I don't need it and days where I do to prevent panic attacks. Panic attacks from what? Zack closed his eyes tight. It's, my stupid gym teacher. Henry nodded, connecting the dots. Despite only needing 2 years to graduate, Zack had willingly enrolled in physical education since freshman year. As a bigger guy, Zack had a tough time in the class, but he still tried his best, though it never helped his constant self-hatred. Each year he'd chosen to take PE again, hoping for lessons about self-image and the detrimental effects of body shaming, but those lessons never took place. PE at Fremont was far less educational than it was physical. The instructor was a drill sergeant type, constantly yelling and shouting at students, demanding faster pace and harder work. He never once displayed compassion for Zack. More than once he'd called attention to Zack's size, seeking to humiliate him in front of other students. Zack groaned, wiping away tears. I'm sorry. What? No, Zack, don't ever apologize. How is what he does to you your fault? It's not, but it feels like it is. I don't blame you, and you shouldn't blame yourself. Smiling, Zack grabbed his best friend by the shoulder and gave him a big, tight hug. Thank you. I love you, man. I love you too. I'll always be here for you, Henry promised, then paused for a moment. I have an idea. Zack sniffled, wiping his eyes. Yeah? Give me 3 examples of things you could do to manage your anxiety. Nothing that involves damaging your lungs. Right now? Yeah, right now. Zack chuckled. I don't remember signing up for therapy. You signed up to be my best friend 14 years ago. And I'm not going to stand on the sidelines as Your anxiety tears you apart. Zach nodded. Fine, I guess I could read comics? Perfect! Henry exclaimed, his face lighting up as he walked over to the tall bookcase in the corner of the room, crammed with Marvel and DC comic books. Look at this amazing collection. I haven't even heard of some of these characters. What else can you think of? I also have you and Riley? Henry smirked. He'd been friends with Zach since kindergarten, and Riley had joined him in 6th grade. Yes, and we're all here for each other. Oh, video games too, Zach smiled. You know I love them. See? Henry gave him a slap on the arm. Lots of stuff to help. It's still your choice whether to keep smoking or not, but I want you to keep all those things in mind. You know I just want what's best for you. Zach nodded gently. You're pretty good at this. Thank you, Henry said. Smoking is only a temporary fix. It'll only make you happy in the moment, but Riley and I aren't going anywhere. Zach burst into tears and wrapped his arms around Henry. You're gonna be an incredible superhero. Thank you so much. Now let's design that suit, he said, voice muffled against Henry's shoulder. After a moment, Zach let go, wiped his eyes, and took a deep breath to compose himself. He then sank into his office chair, pulling open his desk drawer. He retrieved a sheet of paper and a sharp pencil. As he sketched the outline of a shirt, pants, and 2 boots, his confidence gradually grew. Reaching for a box of colored pencils, he selected cyan and red, then colored the concepts in. Look at this, Zach said, holding up the sketch with a hopeful smile. Henry took the paper and scrutinized it with a playful squint. Spider-Man? Seriously? Blue and red is cool. Yeah, but Henry glanced around at the superhero memorabilia on almost every wall. You, of all people, should know how many heroes use those colors. Can we try something a bit more unique? Zach smirked and asked, Alright, what colors are you thinking? As he crumpled the sketch into a paper ball and lobbed it toward the trash can, shouting, Kobe! The ball ricocheted off the side of the can and landed on the floor as Zach sighed. Or not. Hey, could we try black and green? Henry suggested. Sure. Zach nodded and quickly redrew the outfit, then carefully shaded the shirt and pants with a black pencil and turned the boots forest green. Studying the updated design, Henry bit his lip. It's missing something. Oh, are you thinking what I'm thinking? Don't you dare give me a cape. Come on, bro, they look so cool. No, Henry laughed. Zach sprung from his seat with enthusiasm. Just wait, you'll see, he said, darting to the dresser in his closet. He swiftly pulled out a plain black hoodie from the top drawer and dark cargo pants from another, placing them on his desk. After a quick spin, he dashed out of the room and returned moments later with a pair of rain boots and a kitchen apron, both dark green. He laid each item out together, creating a makeshift ensemble. Turning to Henry, Zach struck a triumphant pose and placed his hands on his hips. That is quite literally the worst superhero outfit I've ever seen, Henry said. Yeah, I don't really know what I'm doing. Hey, wait, you said you saw a tutorial, right? Yeah, why? Well, what if we add a little something extra? Something that, fits that theme, Zach suggested, pulling a plastic bin from a shelf and opening the lid. The bin was full of dusty and broken video game controllers. These all look decent, said Henry. Why were they stashed away? I haven't used them in years. Some have buttons that stick, others are completely broken. Curious, Henry delved into the bin, eagerly sifting through a colorful array of controllers spanning decades of gaming history. He carefully inspected each one, moving several aside. Among the jumble, Henry found something rectangular. He freed it from the pile to study it closely. It was a controller for a Nova Adventure system, a hidden gem designed for a console we heard great things about. It bore no major damage, only a few buttons requiring a firmer press. In all other aspects, the controller was pristine. This one. Can I have it? NAS. Good choice. Go ahead, keep it. Zach reached into the bottom drawer of his desk to grab a bottle of adhesive, then splattered it on the suit's chest. I hope sticky clothes aren't going to bother you. They definitely will. Henry looked disappointed. But you're my friend, so I'll humor you. As Zach's attention was drawn by the distant wail of police sirens, he swiveled toward his open window. That's your cue, buddy. Gulping deeply, Henry reluctantly agreed, then snatched the clothes and headed directly to the bathroom to change. Um, so that was the prologue and chapter 1. So thank you uh, for watching. And I'll see you next time for chapter 2 and we continue the adventure. See you next time.